One from Todd. I believe the Florida Gators will be an improved team over last year. Will their record reflect the improvement? And now a question from TD Gator 9, who makes his opinion on this very clear. Dear Andy, who is the last coach to have 3 wins or less against 500-plus teams in their first 2 seasons and then go on to win a championship? Part 2, when does Billy Napier get fired? So I went and looked up that stat just to make sure this wasn't a negative Nelly just trying to get me to read that out loud when it's not true. But it is true. So Billy Napier opened 2022, first game at Florida, with a win against eventual Pac-12 champ Utah. They also beat South Carolina that year, and South Carolina went up 8-5. Last year, they beat Tennessee. Those are the wins against teams that finished above 500 in their season. That's it. That's not good. I tried to go back and see if there were coaches in their first 2 years that had equal problems. I went way back. I went back to like Bobby Bowden when he got to Florida State, because I was thinking, okay, he had a tough first year. Then he went 10-2 his second year. And I was like, well, maybe he didn't have that tough a schedule. No, they did play against teams that finished over 500. Coach O, I thought would be interesting to compare. You know, Coach O's first 2 seasons at LSU, first 2 full seasons, he was the interim in 2016, but his first 2 full seasons were 17 and 18. And in the first year, he did only win 2 games against 500-plus teams, but he won 6 of those such games in the second. So I started crunching the numbers on this thing. How many teams on Florida's schedule this year, and we've talked a lot about how hard Florida's schedule is, but how many teams on Florida's schedule this season have a Vegas preseason win total of 7 or more? So we're not even including the 6.5s here. We're just 7 or more. So 7-5 or better is kind of the baseline for these teams. There are 9. Miami 9.5, Texas A&M 8.5, UCF 7.5, Tennessee 8.5, Georgia 10.5, Texas 10.5, LSU 9.5, Ole Miss 9.5, Florida State 9.5. Oh, by the way, Kentucky is 6.5, and Billy Napier has not beaten Mark Stoops yet. So there's your mandate, Billy Napier. You're going to have to win games against good teams, which we knew. Now, to get back to Todd's original question, will they be an improved team over last year, and does the record reflect that? The schedule is harder, so that, yes, they can be improved and wind up with the same record. Now, if they wind up with the same record, if they wind up 5-7 again, I don't think they're going to keep Billy Napier. Because at that point, you've shown what you are. You're an under 500 coach. That program aspires to be better than that. I don't think it matters at that point. Now, that said, if you go 6-6 and make a bowl game, if you go 7-5, like if you go 8-4, there's no question. Like the question, if you go 8-4, and I've seen these numbers crunched lately. Like if Florida goes 8-4 against this schedule, could they be a dark horse at-large playoff team? Yeah, I think they'd be considered. I don't know that they'd get in there, but I do think they'd be considered at 8-4 with this schedule, depending on how the 4 worked out. But 8-4, you're absolutely staying. 7-5, I think you're absolutely staying, because it means you've beaten teams that are pretty good, that either made the playoff or close to making the playoff. 6-6, I think there's a path to staying. It just depends on how the games looked. Were you close in the games you lost? Now, if you go 6-6 and you lose the 6 by an average of 28 points, you're gone. If you go 6-6 and you lose the 6 by an average of 6 points, that means you're probably kind of right there. And next season could be significantly better. So all of that context matters. But the having 9 teams on your schedule with a preseason win total of 7 or better. Billy Napier so far in 2 seasons at Florida, the best of those 2, he beat 2 teams that finished with over a 500 record. If you only beat 2 of the teams out of those 9 that are supposed to have over a 500 record, you're 5-7 this year. Not good enough. So that is the mandate for Billy Napier. You have to win some of those games. And I've heard people say, but the schedule is so hard. It doesn't matter. You're at a program that pays you to win national championships. We quote Don Draper a lot on this show, but that's what the money's for. You got to win those games. If not now, win. So there's where they're at right now. When you lay out the schedule like that, when you lay it out there with how many teams are expected to be really good, because it's not like they're all at 7.5. There's 6 opponents at 9.5 or higher. That's crazy. But again, that's what the money's for. You are paid to win games like that. Will he? We'll find out. Thank you so much for watching. Just a reminder, subscribe to this channel right here so you never miss an episode of Andy Staples On 3. And oh, by the way, watch all the other great videos on the On3 Sports YouTube channel.